All right, so what's going on, guys? This is the color. Sorry. What's going on, guys? This is the Colorful Scrubs podcast. Today we have a special guest. He's in CRNA program. Taran, could you introduce yourself?
So why am I special? Because I'm colorful or I'm in CRNA school?
Kind of both.
It's a lot of melon here today, but
Yeah.
I'm Taranjeet. I also go by Taran. I just started CRNA school this year in January. Moved to the United States 9 years ago. Just a little bit about my schooling. I went to San Jose State University for my undergrad nursing, and I graduated from them December 2021. Moved across to the Midwest, got my ICU experience at Mayo Clinic, came back to California, and I go to a CRNA school here in the Central Valley. Appreciate it to be here.
Yep.
Love to see it.
So right off the bat, I realized you went to the AANA conference, which for the viewers that don't know, it's the. Could you say the acronym?
Yeah, AANA stands for American Association of Nurse Anesthesiology.
Yeah, so could you go over a little bit about what you saw over there at the convention? Why do you think it's beneficial? What population do you think benefits the most out of it? Would it be nursing students or ICU professionals, or just kind of just go through that?
I think, to be really honest, for nursing student population, might not be that beneficial. I think for nursing students who are really trying to make good connections and stuff, I think maybe the National Teaching Institution, I might have butchered the acronym, but the NTI from AACN. So if your plan or trajectory is to go to CRNA school and you're pursuing the critical care route, then I think maybe getting involved in the American Association of Critical Care Nurses, AACN, and going to their annual conference might be a better idea. But to answer your question, I think ANA was really good. This is my first time going, but I think it's really good to make those connections because you meet a lot of people there. And CRNA world is actually much, much smaller than nursing world or registered nurses world. So you almost everyone almost knows everyone, right? So you see a lot of people that you follow on social media, right? But you make good connections. You get to know about the politics behind the profession, which is very crucial. The more you will delve into the field of CRNA, the more you'll understand about the politics and stuff. And I think going to these conferences really open those doors for whom it is a good idea. So starting this year, I think there's a lot of advocacy for about ICU nurses also, or registered nurses in general, for them to be able to go to this conference. And I think it's a great idea because I think there was a topic that Dr. Drew Riddle, who's a now former president, but when the conference happened, he was the president, right? So he talked about the transition from RN to RRNA, right? From a registered nurse to a nurse anesthesia resident. He spoke about that, and I think it's a great topic, great thing that a nurse should know everything about the profession, everything they're about to put themselves into, because 3 years of CRNA school is no joke, especially if you have obligations, family, whatnot. So they're doing a lot of good events for nurses as well. And also, I tell this to everyone, three of I don't call them my mentees, they're my friends. But three of my really cool and really close friends, they're also cool, but three of my really close friends were also who are ICU nurses, and they're applying to CRNA schools this cycle. But they went and they saw and met the directors of their choice of school, and they had one-on-one conversations. The people that you will probably only meet in interviews, they were first name basis, having one-to-one conversations, getting to know them and them getting to know them, right? So I think it's a great opportunity, great networking opportunity.
So you said networking, as in conferences in general. Would you be referring to diversity CRNA and stuff as well? Which is, if you can explain a little bit about that.
So diversity CRNA, I love Lena Gold. She's my CRNA mother. I have lots and lots of respect for that woman. and lots of love. For anyone who doesn't know Lena Gold, she's the founder of Diversity CRNA. Honestly, I feel like I missed that earlier, but for nursing students, for nurses, for ICU nurses, anyone who is not in a CRNA program and is trying to get into one, you should definitely attend Diversity CRNA over any conference, period. A couple of reasons for that. Firstly, is you get a lot of exposure, right? I met my directors at Diversity CRNA. I went to 4 conferences before it was my time to apply. We were pretty much, they knew me by my name, by my face. My face helps, like turban beard. It's hard to not miss, but not everyone has that,
Yeah,
right?
I go there again. They're gonna be like, not this guy
No,
again.
not this guy again, right? Not this guy
Yeah.
again. Right? But not everyone has that. So if you don't have that, if you're not that as cool as sick we are, but jokes apart, but I think it's really crucial to go out there. And what diversity does is, for example, if you're applying to schools in California, they have the directors as speakers. Pretty much they're selling their schools to you. They give you, they give you the presentations on their schools, and then you can ask them questions, you can meet them, you can introduce them. So I think that's one thing which diversity is really, really, really good at, right? It's really good at exposure. So diversity is a great resource, and also they have like free mock interviews. They have free CV reviews, free personal statement reviews, which you don't have to pay a penny for. So I feel like overall diversity is a great resource, and everyone should go if they can.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth the investment.
And like you mentioned, they also have simulation labs, what kind of gets you.
Yeah, so like every school that you go to, for example, last year I went to Arizona or Midwestern. I apologize. Well, I went to Arizona, but the university was Midwestern. So last day is about simulation lab. So yeah, you got to know about the programs, but now you actually get to know about the profession. Sorry, my English is my fourth language.
Yeah.
You get to know about the profession, right? So I feel like it also gives you an exposure of this is what my schooling is gonna be looking like, and this is also gonna be the rest of my life, right? So yeah, man,
Yeah.
diversity is top there.
And the fact that they're in different locations, like each time, is
It's
such a
yeah,
great thing
it's a
because
good thing.
the way we practice over here might not be similar as like
Exactly,
at East Coast and vice versa.
and it gives you exposure to all of those schools
Yeah.
because some like you might not want to apply to schools in Chicago, right? So you might not go to that event, but there might be some people who are only looking and banking at those schools. So it would be great for them to go because they'll
Yeah.
meet those directors there.
Yeah.
Overall, it's a great exposure, but
Yeah. And you might learn something new about that program that you
exactly.
didn't know before.
Oh, 100%. You learn so much more because the person who's the director, the person who's going to look at your application, the person who's going to interview you is the one who's selling the program. So definitely you're going to learn more than the website.
Yeah. That's a really great thing to participate in, and I'll be at the Chicago event, and so I'll be connecting with people there, learning new things there.
I'm very
So
excited for you.
yeah, man, it's gonna be an awesome experience. So let's just go a little bit. I know we kind of jumped the gun, and I wanted to start with the conference because you recently attended, but where did you complete your ICU training?
So funny story. I actually wanted to stay in the area. I wanted to stay in the Bay Area, but I applied to a major hospital system in the area. Not gonna say any names, but it's located in Palo Alto, California. You all are smart enough to figure it out. But they denied me. They denied me ICU. Instead, they wanted to give me cardiac, progressive care unit or step down. That means that I would have to wait like a year or 15 minutes before I could transition to ICU, and that
Yeah,
could have delayed my timeline by an year or two. And I always wanted to go to CRNA school and be a CRNA, so I knew that, and I didn't want to waste any time. So then I was like, man, you know what? This is an investment for my career. I'm gonna apply anywhere where I can get the best ICU experience in my eyes, in my opinion. So I applied to a lot of places outside, and the first was John Hopkins. Applied there, I got an interview, I got a job. And I was like, man, if I'm really gonna move this much, I'm gonna apply to the best hospitals or the top hospitals, right? So then I applied to Cleveland Clinic. I got a job offer from there as well. And I was like, I'm gonna apply to Mayo Clinic as well. Then I applied to Mayo Clinic. That was the last one, and I got an offer from Mayo Clinic, and I moved. And yeah, man, I don't regret my decision. I think it was great for me as a person, individual as well, because I don't know about you guys, but when you grow up into an Indian family, it's hard for you to do some things independently, just because how cherishing and caring the parents are,
Yeah.
and for them, you're always their children, which is nothing wrong with that. But for you to go out in the world and learn those things, I feel like you have to be in those environments, right? So I learned how to cook on my own, and I can make good food.
Yeah.
In my opinion, people might disagree, but
Yeah.
people might disagree. But I
I
learned.
disagree. No, I'm just
No,
kidding.
this guy.
Um,
I learned how to cook. I learned how to drive in the snow. Right, so it was a great environment, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's the perfect because whenever I see these nurses in the ICU, and it's the reality of life. Many of them have kids, they have jobs, they have a lot of people depending on them, so they're
Hmm.
not able to take that next step.
Hmm.
And to have that opportunity where your parents are at a stage where you can naturally fall back on them is such a great like way to like
Right.
accelerate your career because you're pretty much just using their resources and furthering yourself, setting yourself up for later. Um, but yeah, so anything that comes in mind with your ICU training, like anything special that you did at Mayo Clinic? If you guys don't know, Mayo Clinic is like the number one hospital in the United States. So what stood out to you over there? What do you feel like is something that you couldn't have gotten over here in these ICUs in Fresno or like any like other level one ICU?
So first thing first, let's get it straight. I'm not here to promote Mayo Clinic or any other hospital. I I honestly feel like what you can get a lot at a community hospital, sometimes you don't even get at the big hospitals because of the amount of resources you have. So it's literally all about how you sell yourself. If you work at a community hospital and you don't have resources and you're the one who runs the shit literally as an ICU nurse there, then good for you. Sell yourself that way to the CRNA schools. They love to hear it. They love to hear it. In my opinion, or what my understanding was, that at that point when I was coming out of nursing school, my opinion was like, I'm going to go to this hospital and learn from the sickest patients, in which I got there, right? There's a lot of resources at Mayo Clinic for nurses. I feel like their idea is they help the nurses by giving them resources so that nurses can excel in their critical care thinking and teaching. Does that make sense? We
Yeah,
can help
definitely.
you with resources so you can worry about critical care. Because some of the patients are really sick at Mayo Clinic. As
Yeah,
you may imagine, it's the mecca of medicine. Everyone says no to you. That's the last place you go,
yeah,
right? So there's a lot of sick patients. So like for example, at some smaller community hospitals, patients may have to be flown out to bigger
yeah,
hospitals, but everyone flew in there. So you take care of a lot of sick patients. You have to, and if you are someone who's going into that environment, if you're someone who's going into any environment, period, if you're a new grad nurse or whatever, you have to be a sponge. That's what I tell everyone. Be a sponge, absorb everything. If someone is taking out their time to teach you as a preceptor who has been there for 10, 15 years, they have a lot more wisdom than you do. They have a lot more critical care experience. They're welcoming you
yeah.
in their unit, right? So
Hmm.
learn a lot and then just go from there. But every environment has its pros and cons.
Yeah. So I've been externing in the pediatric ICU, and over there we have our preceptors, and pretty much what they're doing is like our lightning rounds, our quick physician updates, and what we do.
Mhm.
She's making me do all the talking and like getting comfortable with that, because essentially what you want to do is get efficient at noticing what the wrong things are. You just don't want to be stating everything that's like robotic, because that doesn't really pertain to your patient, and just it's just about like learning efficiency. But honestly, I think efficiency is not all that. At first, you have to be like a safe nurse. So, like, and my thing is, whenever I feel uncomfortable or whatnot, I make sure to express that and get some help. Because in the ICU, you have tons of help. I mean, like you mentioned, like some hospitals may not have like resources, but others that do have like their own IV team. They have their own ultrasound. They have everything
Yeah,
literally. And so the nurses like they can just focus on being that last line of
critical,
defense, you know.
critical care. Yeah,
Yeah,
and not to say that the places that don't have resources they're not safe.
yeah.
That's not what I meant. I just meant in terms of resources. Like Mayo Clinic, we have an IV. We have an IV nursing team. So if anytime you have a difficult IV, you don't even touch it.
Yeah.
They come and take care of it to help prevent their urinary catheter infection rates. They have a specific team of nurses who all they do is put in catheters.
Hmm.
I think it's a genius idea because you're really good at it and you do it a lot more, and it takes off the burden of the primary nurse. So you're worried about the tasks and critical care thinking. And I really like that your preceptor is making you do that because I did a similar externship
Hmm.
when I was in nursing school. I did it in a medical ICU, and my preceptor made me do the same thing. And you will be so appreciative when you go into a new grad job because communication is such a crucial thing for being a nurse because you don't want to be that person. And when rounds are happening, yes, they want to know the whole thing. They know they kind of have an idea, but they want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
What pressors am I on?
Yeah.
What's the blood pressure? What are we doing? What's the urine output? Blah blah blah. XYZ. So,
Yeah.
and that comes with practice. Yeah, safety and prioritization. So I'm glad you're doing that for yourself.
Yeah. And in terms of the like the physician updates, it's just like charting by exception. But like in reality, the ICU nurses, we literally have to chart everything.
Yeah.
So it's just getting comfortable with that. But I know some people are like, oh, get to the point, get to the point. So let's just get to the point. So real quick, if you feel comfortable sharing like what made you stand out, like your GPA, prereqs, how did you get into CRNA school just by having 1 year of ICU experience? What makes you stand out like that?
How much money am I gonna get? Just kidding. So this is the question everyone is there for, huh? This is
Yeah,
what you want to
they
know.
skip to this
Let's
part,
skip to
so
this.
yeah.
Skip to this part. How did he get in? So I think, well, to be specific, I didn't have a year. I had 15 months by the time I applied. So, but I think a lot of other stuff that I did was, for example, during my externship experience, I saw an elderly sick man as I was doing my rounds, and I saw him crying. And I went to his room because I was like, what's going on? Why are you crying? And he told me, he said to me that they did me bad in Punjabi.
Yeah.
He said, "Inhone mere naal takka kita," which means that you did something bad to them. I was like, what's going on? What did they do? And then he was like, I was brought in here and they shaved my chest hair and they took off my kirpan. So for people who don't know, hair and kirpan is a ceremonial dagger. Hair is hair, but they're article of faith for the Sikh religion. So when someone goes into the ED, right, that's just how if you have chest pain, they're gonna do an EKG. So instead of clipping the hair or doing something else, they just shaved the chest hair, which in their defense, they didn't know. But the psychological impact that it left on that elderly gentleman could be argued that it was greater than the physiological impact that we were trying to deal with because he was in agony. So that really struck me, man. I was like, this is something wrong. Like the American Constitution protects the right of like freedom of religion, freedom of speech. So I spoke to one of my mentors, who is a big, she's a big deal with Kaiser system, and she knows how to uh, navigate the bureaucracy within the Kaiser system. I spoke to her and I expressed what happened, and she navigated me. And she was like, "You know what, Taranjeet, I see how passionate you are about this stuff, and there is something that needs to be done." So we spoke about it, um, and then I made a presentation for the Kaiser's team, and it went to a lot of leadership people, and literally just told them about the Sikh religion, told them about the article of faith. With that education, I also did my first publication as a first author with this person as well about the Sikh faith. And then with that publication, the presentation, Kaiser actually amended its nationwide policy. So if you're a baptized Sikh man or woman, you can take your kirpan inside the premises. It's actually a part of their policy now, which was not. So this presentation also provided a lot of information. So maybe you might want to clip the hair instead of just shaving it. So that was something that stuck to me, and I was like, man, I can't really advocate for my patients. I can't advocate for this person. I can't advocate for XYZ if I can't advocate for myself, if I can't advocate for my identity or for my future children to be, or whoever it is. If I
Yeah.
can advocate for myself, I can't advocate for anyone else. So that was a big thing. So I'm not sure if you are going to go out there and change hospital policies, but I just happened
Yeah.
to be there. It was just meant to be. I was a medium, let's say that way. So I did that. I did publication. Then after that, I did a couple of more publications as co-authors. So publication, policy amendment, ICU experience, volunteer hours. If you guys don't know, I was also a doula volunteer.
Hmm.
There's something I did. I was the only male doula volunteer at the hospital, but
For
that's
people
another
that don't
story.
know, real quick, could you explain what a doula is?
So let's look up the literal definition.
Okay.
So I want people to. So doula, the definition of a doula is a person who's trained to advise, inform, and offer emotional and physical comfort to a pregnant person before, during, and after birth of their child. So that's literally what it is. You are there. I happen to have my background in nursing at that point, but not every doula has to have a background in healthcare or whatnot, but I happen to have it. So you're just there for the mother. You're an advocate. You help them throughout the labor process, right? Whatever they need. You're that extra set of ears and eyes who are advocating for the mother, and also you're also taking care of the dad because it's a lot for them as well. So you're there for them. You offer them your services. Luckily, I had some nursing experience or nursing background. So a lot of stuff that they might not know, I was able to translate for them,
Yeah.
but within my limits, not just because I'm just there to be a
Yeah.
doula. But yeah, I did that as a volunteering, and then yeah, man, I did a lot of. I'm trying to think. I attended a lot of conferences. Attended NTI, did diversity CRNA, did the diversity CRNA four conferences. Let's talk about GPA. I think there's a research out there, and if you talk to majority of the directors, the major factor is the science GPA, which is correlated to a resident's success. If you have a good GPA, science GPA, research shows you're more inclined to pass through the CRNA school curriculum. So my school looked at last 60 units of science GPA. So yeah, my undergrad GPA was 3.8 cumulative. My science GPA was around 3.8, 3.9. I had two minors. I did a minor in chemistry because you need to know chemistry. That's how it works. All the drugs and stuff, it's chemistry at the end of the day. I had a minor in chemistry. I also had a minor in psychology. So I graduated with a BSN and minors in psychology and chemistry. So my cumulative GPA I just told you, but that's not true. I was not always this person with high grades. I graduated my high school with 2.7 GPA, and that's because when I moved to the United States, in India, everyone, if you go to India, if you go to Punjab, Sikh people are known to be they're respected community because of what we have done, what our ancestors have done, right? So it's a respected community. But when I got here, I got stare eyes, and for someone who has never experienced that in 16 years of their life, it was very it was very different.
Yeah.
It was just not a cultural shock. It was more likely I'm being misidentified for someone else, and I don't blame this on Muslims either, because whenever someone asks me or makes a racial derogatory comment, I try not to respond that I'm not a Muslim, because then I'm directing that hate towards them, right? Because yeah, go hate Muslim. I'm not a Muslim, but uh, that's not right either, right? So I got a lot of hate and stuff, but then it took a lot of work to be able to embrace myself and to be my own authentic self and go from there. But when I realized that, funny story, I actually wasn't going to get into San Jose State. I got into San Jose State because they had a Spartan Promise program at that point. So pretty much, if you did all of your A through H requirements through high school, and if you had a C or above, San Jose State would automatically take you in. So when I got into San Jose State, I wasn't a undeclared pre-nursing student. I was an undeclared student. And from there, I was just like, man, Taran, you have two choices. You know, you can you can drive truck like your cousins over here, or you can fucking do some shit about
Yeah.
your life. So that's what I did. I think I'm not the
No
smartest
hate to
person.
the no hate to the truckers out there.
No hate to the truckers,
Yeah.
bro. Like you do
But
you make your bank. No hate, no
yeah.
hate. But I'm just saying, I had two choices. I could either open a 7-Eleven. Just kidding. I could open a
Yeah.
7-Eleven,
The corner store.
the corner store. I can
Way
drive.
different from anesthesia.
I sell drugs too, man. Come on now.
Yeah.
No, we sell no drugs, but I could do that, or I could, do what a lot of my friends and cousins were doing, drive trucks. Or I was like, you know what? My parents sacrificed a lot for me
Yeah.
to have this opportunity. I can make the most out of it. So I often tell people I'm not smart, not the smartest guy, but I did put a lot of hard work in.
Yeah. And I always tell people as well, if it's meant to be, it will happen. Because the only time you'll ever not get into CRNA school is if you stop applying, which is literally because no one's going to look at how many times you applied. They're always just going to look at the end result. Like for me, I got into a CSU Fullerton's direct entry program right out of high school, and COVID struck, and it was a lot of money. And to make that decision to not attend there was crazy, and everyone told me that I was crazy for that. But looking at it now, I think I made a pretty good decision of where I
If it's
decided to
meant to be,
go.
bro, if
If
it's
it's
meant
meant
to
to
be,
be, it'll
it'll
happen.
happen.
But I was the same way. I had an undeclared major, and then I switched into nursing. I got into nursing two tries. Then I got into Fresno State's nursing program, which I'm super grateful
Which
for.
is super hard to get in.
Yeah,
The
especially
CSU schools are super hard to get in.
yeah, especially the Central Valley, where every Indian's trying to become a nurse,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a tough competition, but you really got to market yourself, like you said. Um, so how do you think CRNA school is different from nursing school? What are the
Okay.
main criteria?
So this, see, I'm drinking water.
Mhm.
See how comfortable that is to drink water from a glass of
Yeah,
water.
seems pretty straightforward.
Straightforward.
Hmm.
Now, if you were to do that in front of a fire hose, how would that be?
I'm pretty difficult. I doubt you get any water in.
That's CRNA school. That's literally CRNA school. There's just so much amount of information that's just dumped at you,
Hmm.
right? And nursing school is hard, but it wasn't. It wasn't that hard. It wasn't.
Yeah,
It is. It isn't comparable because of the amount of information. And my school is quarter system, very fast paced. It's front loaded, so 15 months of didactics. So we're just in the thick of it right now because it's just a bunch of stuff just thrown at us. But it's doable again.
yeah,
Prioritization, your time. How do you manage your time? I did good in my exam today, so that's why I'm doing this podcast. If I had done bad on my exam, I would have rescheduled this. It
no
all comes
podcasts
no
today.
podcast. It all comes down to you prioritize
Yeah,
and you. I do my social media stuff because I actually enjoy it. I enjoy podcasting, right? So, but you have to make out time for those things. You have to make sacrifices. For example, working hard. There is no other option. Just work hard.
yeah. And like you mentioned, some people may not know, like the didactic portion of CRNA schools would actually be your portion where you're going through classwork, and then you have
Yeah, my
your
apologies. Yeah, didactic is literally just coursework. So some schools are integrated, and which means they do didactic and clinicals together. Some schools are front loaded where they do didactics. They teach you the stuff theory before. Not saying that we don't learn any practical skills right now. We do. We have simulation lab every week. So we're learning that, but the actual clinical in the OR starts next year, April for us. So 15 months of clinicals and 21 months of almost 2 years of 15 months of didactics and almost 2 years of clinicals.
and that's where you rotate out of clinical sites, right?
Yeah, every quarter we rotate
Every
out. Yeah.
quarter. Okay. And so I actually got to see one of the national programs students. They were rotating through St. Agnes, so it was awesome getting to shadow
When
them.
was
And
that?
this was about like I'd say a month ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, but anyways, very good experience that I had there. Honestly, you get so much she was just providing the anesthesia. You get so much hands-on experience, and of course you have your like head CRNA that looks over you, but she was doing like
You're running the show.
amazing. Yeah, she was
Yeah,
running
you're
the
running the
show.
show. Yeah.
So, and like you mentioned, that is the part of being a resident, right?
Yeah.
Running the show and then making the decisions I need to make, because that's your safety net after those 2 years. It's going to be you providing the anesthesia. And you're in a program where they focus on more independent practice, right?
Yes, sir. That was my. I think we talk about this in this podcast, but that was my decisive factor. I only applied to two schools. Um, I can make this public, guys. I don't really. Um, there's no hate or anything for anyone, but I applied to CSU Fullerton Kaiser Permanente, and I applied to that program because I love the director so much. I love Sash Elisha. If you know him, you'll know why I say that. He's also a very smart and a humble guy. He has many textbooks and everything under his names. But I applied to Kaiser Permanente School, and then I applied to National University, both being my top choices. And then I applied. I got an interview last year in September from National, and then I got a spot on acceptance. And when I got that, I was like, this is my top choice school.
Mm.
When I got that, I withdrew my invitation invite because I had got an invite from Kaiser, so I declined that and I went with National. Going back, I don't regret it because I think two things why I really went to Kaiser was first is independent practice, right? There is no, I'm not here to tell you what practice you want to work in, but I feel like if you're trained in a program which prioritizes independent practice, then you can practice in any field right off the bat. You can work in an ACT model, you can work in an independent practice model, you can work in any model you like. So that's one thing I really liked about National. Another thing is a lot of their faculties, almost everyone is practicing in our faculty, and a lot of them also own their own businesses. So that's another thing. They teach you about those businesses and all whatnot. And lastly, it came down to 7 months because National was starting in January, whereas my buddy Sukhdeep is starting with Kaiser right now, but they're starting at the end of August, almost 8 months. So I looked at that. I was like, man, that's 8 to 9 months of CRNA pay that I'll be missing out if
Yeah.
I was to go to Kaiser instead of National. So I made that decision here. I was like, nah, I'm just going to National. Yeah.
And so
But no hate to Kaiser. I love Kaiser and its people.
that was kind of your criteria. You mentioned the interview and like you getting into the interviews. Could you talk a little bit about the interview? How was it like? The nerves, like anything going through your head during that time?
I prayed.
That's
I prayed. I woke up. I went to the Gurdwara Sahib first. I did the Ardas. I came back and then I sat down, drank some water, and then I just took some deep breaths. And I was like, man, the worst they can say is no. Literally, the worst they can say
yeah,
is no. But I practiced a lot before that, though. Just did a lot, bunch of mock interviews because I think practice and hard work is the only thing that will get you through it. Luckily for me, my interview was very straightforward. I can't really get into details about that, but my interview was very straightforward. So yeah.
yeah. And like you mentioned, the last thing CRNA schools probably want is a robotic candidate, a candidate who just recites a template.
Oh no, 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 yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
think that's one thing about National. They're very interested in who you are as a person because they look at you, and I'm pretty sure other schools do, but they look at you as their future colleagues. Yeah, so they want to know what values you have and what kind of a person you are.
mm. And so you kind of mentioned a little bit about ACT, anesthesia care team, compared to independently practicing as a CRNA. What do you feel in terms of getting a full scope of practice, like doing blocks and general anesthesia? Is there like at this point in your career or in your schooling, is there like a certain specialty that draws you?
So if anyone knows about my CRNA, it's my story why I really wanted to get into anesthesia was um, when I was born. My mom had quite a long labor experience, or the time was very long. And this was a village in India.
Mm-hmm.
There is no epidural. There are no pain medications. There are no fentanyl pushes. There is no epidural. So she suffered through all of that. And she went through a lot for me when I was born. So that really inclined me to give back to the moms. Reason being why I became a doula, because I wanted to give back. And that's another reason why draws me to an OB anesthesia practice in the future. Excuse me, my phone is blowing up. But I see myself uh, going doing maybe OB anesthesia in the future. I'm not sure if I'm going to do ACT model or independent practice. For those who don't know ACT is a physician supervision or physician directed model. Um, I don't know. I don't think I'm at the point in my career where I can really tell you one is better than the other. But I'm glad that my school teaches me to be independent for my teachings, like to me, for me to be able to work at my top extent, so that I can decide for myself and not be the other way around. And
Yeah.
learn in a maybe not so independent model, and then I have to learn those skills on my own. Because we were like this third quarter, the beginning of POA, we were learning about all the blocks and stuff, which is pretty fascinating, right? So yeah.
And do you think that's like the future? I know
Oh
you
hell
said
yeah,
it, like you preach
hell
it,
yeah,
right?
hell yeah.
So in terms of like general anesthesia versus blocks,
Blocks is the future, man.
yeah. And then there's another conference as well. I believe it's called NY SORA, in New York School of Regional Anesthesia.
Yes,
Do you,
Nisora app. I
yeah,
download the app. But yes,
download the app, guys.
it's a great yeah, man.
Yeah. So like
It's a great resource.
I know you mentioned people or your publications, very niche publication,
Mm.
like tied to our Sikh religion, and obviously, some people out there might be using that as their excuse. They might be like, "Oh, I'm not special. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna get in." But honestly, I feel like there's some religions out there that don't have anybody advocating for them, and you don't necessarily even have to be from that religion. You just have to do some research and then get that out there. You can be an advocate for people.
And
So.
it doesn't really have to be about religion itself either. It just, as I tell people, and I tell you, well, he's not going to tell you this right now, but this guy here is going to be a first author pretty soon. Congratulations
Thanks,
to
man.
you, big dog here. But I think it doesn't really have to be a lot about religions. I think what you can do if you are in nursing school right now, go go to your school and look at the science labs that your school has, because a lot of people don't know, I was also actually a part of a research lab which was working on to find a cure for hemophilia. So I was part of that. And if you talk to the principal investigator and they have some paper going on or whatever, they can add you as a co-author in it. You can write a piece, but that's a publication. It doesn't have to be a religion. You have to go out there. You can't um, I'm listening to this guy's podcast. I'm not gonna do any name drop or anything, but I think a lot of us have to drop out of that victim mindset.
Yeah.
If you see there is something problem, there's a problem, then you gotta go out and change it. Be the change you wish to see in the world, right?
Yeah.
Moving on.
But I think we might have hit all the spots. Is there anything you want to emphasize on before we head out? Do you have any message out there to any future CRNAs or even people in my cohort, like my nursing cohort?
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
I think a message I have for you is leave the doubt for people. Leave the doubt for everyone else. Don't be the person who self doubts themselves, because the world, people around you, your family, the people who are really closest to you, or the people who don't know you, whoever it may be, there is plenty of people in this world who will do that for you. They will doubt you every step of the way. They will doubt you. You're not good enough. You're this. You're that. You're that. You're that. You're that. You're that. Nah, 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 nah. No, you gotta be your true, authentic self, and you gotta realize how bad you want it. If you want it, you will be able to get it. There's nothing stopping you. Just look yourself in the mirror, and you are the only competition that there exists. This is what I tell everyone, like, just leave any amount of self-doubt out of the room and be in the circles that you want to be a part of, right? If you think you're the smartest person in your crew, you need to be out of that circle.
Yeah.
You need to be out of that circle ASAP, because you want to learn more, have the growth mindset, take criticism from people, and learn and adapt. To be able to talk a lot, you have to be able to listen a lot.
Mm.
And especially like me, I'm a novice in my career. I don't know anything. I obtain knowledge from everyone. So yeah, be a novice and just put in the work and you'll get there.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of competition, by the way, before we end it off, you thinking what I'm thinking?
This
Push-up
guy.
competition?
Ready? Or you tell us who has a better form, okay? Set, go.
That's it for me. I did 20. Congrats, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Take it easy.
Like, subscribe, share, follow me on Instagram. This sick RRNA. 3 years later, it will be this sick CRNA. You already know.
Let's go.
It's my homie Adarsh
You
here.
guys know what's up.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.